the Wiggly Podcast. Let your iPod bloom.
Oh, the Wiggly Podcast, your weekly escape to life in rural Herefordshire. We're covering the environment, we're covering farming, biodiversity, and the things we can do to make a difference. I'm Heather, Managing Director, allegedly, of Wiggly Wigglers, and I'm joined today by my co-host,
Richard.
A bit of rural rough. Farmer Phil's joining us today.
A bit of rural rougher.
And we've got so much that's gone on at Wiggly Wigglers this week that we're going to race through that. But Richard's been off to the Wildlife Forum in London, so we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
We've got Monty coming in with his Wormcast. But first, the question on everybody's lips, every listener's lips, from Luxembourg to California, from Washington to Brederdine is, Farmer Phil, have you received your single farm payment?
Not a hope. No change there then. However, I have got a question for our co-host Ricardo, because since I discovered that he is also a single farm payment applicant, I wondered whether he got his.
No, not at all. And I haven't heard anything back for ages. I had to re-register some common grazing rights that we've got, and that's probably put another spanner in the works. But no. I did hear something in the news the other day. Well, aren't the RPA going to send out loans?
They're talking about doing partial payments, but
Right,
of course
right, yeah.
that causes them a lot more work, which is they're not going to deal with
Slow
very
down the
well.
whole process again.
And
yeah.
they are getting a bit worried now because the deadline of the end of June, the EEC have set this deadline, and what happens then is that if they haven't paid money out at that point, rather than the EEC paying the money, the British government has to pay it.
Right.
And they're not going to like that.
No.
And one would assume the taxpayer aren't going to like that much either.
No.
And it's quite difficult for us farmers because it makes us look as if all we're interested in is subsidy. And if the British taxpayer has to pick up the whole bill, that'll sharpen the idea up again, and it's bad PR for everyone concerned.
And now I must interrupt here because we've got a little bit of a whinging going on there, Phil, haven't we, I think? And on Sunday we went to the St George's Day Cub Scout Parade, and surprisingly enough we went to the pub and got talking to our friend and neighbour Sharon Fenn, who had a bit of controversy from her point of view on the single farm payment, and there was a little bit of a row on there, wasn't there, Phil?
Well, Sharon is one of the many people in the country who have, for want of a better phrase, got a pony paddock or a little bit of ground that goes with their house, and the government in their wisdom decided, for some reason that is entirely beyond me, that they wanted to give them agricultural subsidy. For why, I can't possibly know.
Well, is it because they've changed the pony paddock to be more environmentally friendly, or is it because they've developed, the hedges or something?
Well, whether that might have been the intent from the government, the result is no, they haven't changed anything. But the result is that they've got all these applicants with these little small areas of land that weren't included in the original farm subsidy system, and so they've got to process all that work. But worse than that, they had their money in March, and this didn't cheer me up very much at all.
Right.
And I just think, well, here's agricultural subsidy.
Simple, I suppose. It was such a small pocket. And
That's right. But I mean, then you get into the political aspect of it, that was an easy number to chalk up on the board, wasn't it? That you pay the pony paddock 150 quid,
yeah,
which is what they're due.
Is that what they're getting? 150 quid?
Something like that. But they had to give £140 of it to the land agent who filled their form in.
Oh,
so
right.
it's not much of a gain.
No, not at all.
How many extra applicants did that bring?
I don't know accurately, but it's tens of thousands.
There we are.
There
He's
you go.
not got it, so it's
grim.
porridge with water, not milk.
For you?
Absolutely.
That's unlikely.
I do like a bit of porridge.
You do like porridge. You
Yes.
like your oats, don't you?
I saw, I told you about porridge that you can take camping in a little pot.
Yeah.
Well, Quaker Oats have started doing it now, and it's sold in supermarkets.
Is that one of the ones you crack open and it kind of warms itself?
Yeah.
Right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, onward to Phil, who's been planting his peas. Over to you, Rich.
It's interesting we're going to talk about peas. I put loads in my garden recently, and there doesn't seem much movement on the pea front.
Well, that's probably for several reasons.
Yeah.
Until recently, the soil temperature has still been quite low.
Right.
And also, it's quite dry.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
I think now that the soil temperature is rising, we would have planted our peas a little earlier than this had our supplier of seed actually remembered to deliver the seed.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't think it matters particularly. I think we're in ideal conditions for them.
Expect them, I mean, you're going to put them in the ground now.
Yep.
When do you expect them to germinate?
Well, they will germinate almost straight away. We plant them quite deep so that you won't see them for a week, perhaps 10 days.
Right.
But the peas that we grow are vining peas. We don't actually grow them for vining. We grow them to produce seed for another farmer to plant to grow vining peas, which are then harvested green to go into your bird's eye frozen peas.
I see. Is the reason you plant them quite deep to stop the little perishers like mice and voles digging them up?
Well, pigeons are our biggest problem.
Right.
We don't get so much trouble with mice and voles and things like that, or if we do, I don't think it's significant, but pigeons can lay waste to the job, particularly if they can get at the seed.
Yeah, I'm
so
sure.
that we have to spend quite a lot of time deterring them.
What about slugs?
Slugs and peas don't seem to be a problem. They can be if the peas are only growing very slowly, but usually at this time of year, when they get going, they'll grow very, very quickly, and they will outstrip the slugs, so that we've very rarely had a problem with slugs on peas.
We've planted lots in the garden, and I went out this morning and checked in the slug trap,
Yeah.
and it's full of them.
Is it?
Yep,
Excellent.
loads of them.
Excellent.
So they don't like Carlsberg lager.
Well, I do like
Well,
it.
they do.
Oh yeah, they do. Well, I do. It's not done them much good.
No, they don't like spending lots of time swimming about in it, do they?
No.
I have seen the effect of Carlsberg lager on you, haven't you, Mesford?
Moving on.
And actually, before you go, what I should say is thanks very much for helping us out with our first worms course the other day.
Not at all. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I thought the way you treated people was inspired. It's a nice opportunity, actually. It's very rare that you go on a course that's going to offer some form of environmental education, but to be able to go out on site with somebody that has a degree of empathy and look at all things bovine and land management strategies. And
Well, it went well, and the feedback shows that they enjoyed the day, so that's the main thing, isn't it?
That's right, absolutely, yeah.
We'll hear some of that feedback in a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the cows are going out, aren't they, to play?
Very soon, yep. Any day now, the grass has grown sufficiently and the weather is nice, the cows will go out and they will enjoy that. This time of year is great for them. They go out, change their coats, they start to look sleek and shiny, and they just love it.
Should we have a report on that, Phil? Because I think they can have a bit of skipping, if cows can skip.
Well, they charge around, certainly. But it's their favourite time of the year because there's plenty to eat. It's sunny and warm and there's no flies. So that for a cow, this sort of month now is about cow heaven as long as the weather's nice. And the flies get going a bit later on. It gets a bit more tedious for them, but they really enjoy going out.
But they have got that dangly bit on the bottom of their tail to flick off the fly.
Oh yeah, they manage it.
Thank you, Farmer Phil. We'll see you next week.
Hi, Rian. Are you all right?
Yes, fine, thank you.
I should introduce you. I should say that you help us out with a great many things here at Blakemere. And one particular thing that you're extremely good at is providing really tasty food lunches for people that come to courses here and visitors and our open days and whatnot. We had a first worms course.
That's right, yeah.
Which day was it?
Wednesday.
Wednesday, that's right. And you did a lunch, and we've got some feedback, and everybody has put excellent.
Oh.
So you got number ones in all categories
wonderful.
for the refreshments, so that's really
Yeah,
good.
great.
They were tough to bits. I know Heather's put you on the spot a bit today by
Yes.
just inviting you to come in
She
here.
usually does, yes.
And chat to us, but yeah, that's usually the way. I'm just wondering, recently I've been giving you CDs, haven't I? I've kind of recorded some CDs.
Yes.
And given you copies of our podcast to take home. And you were telling me earlier on that there's a bit of debate going on.
Oh, yes, yeah. Over the border in Wales, actually.
Right.
My family are a farming family.
Right.
The feedback's coming in, I'm on Garby's side. That Richard doesn't know what he's on about. And then someone else will come in. And Pam, my daughter, it's gone the other way now. It's gone Gelpack, it's gone Hereford way.
Right.
And the same feedback's coming all the time, People are really getting into it.
Yeah.
You're really causing quite a ripple.
It's incredible, isn't
Yeah.
it? It's incredible that people find it so interesting. I mean, perhaps it's not incredible, but it's great. I shouldn't say bad choice of words. It's great that people find
I
it so
think
interesting.
people, when you sort of mention podcast, people sort of say, well, they don't know what it's. When you say, well, you can have a CD. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and you obviously like them because you.
I think they're wonderful. Yes, I peel my potatoes and do my boring jobs, and so I got in the kitchen, and it's wonderful.
Podcast. What's your favourite one so far? Do you think?
I like the hedging debate, I think. I'm sorry to be, I suppose everybody felt...
I think that's probably one of my favourites, actually.
Yeah.
That kind of healthy debate, good arguments.
I missed the supermarket one somewhere along the line with Dick Barker, but...
Oh, I'll record that for you then.
Yeah, I missed that one, but I'm looking forward to the next lot.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's brilliant, yeah.
Cheers, Rian.
It's really good.
We've got a whole summer stretching ahead of us, haven't we, where you're going to be doing all sorts of lovely lunches and tea parties and all sorts of things for this year. So
I'm actually being re-educated, actually, because I'm going now into Tesco's and walking past things and I'm not having that. Where can I get that?
Yeah.
Whereas you'd sort of pick up your tomatoes and not think, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just walk past them. If they're not from anything to do with British or Guernsey or wherever, I don't have them. Full stop. And we managed, with our catering so far, to practically do everything British.
Absolutely fantastic. And most of the products come from Herefordshire as well, don't they?
Yeah, locally, yeah.
Excellent.
Practically everything.
Cheers, Rian. Thanks for coming in anyway. Thank you very much for coming in and having a chat to us.
Okay, I'll get back to my domestic duties.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
No rest for the wicked.
No, none at all.
Cheers.
On to feedback. Rich, we've got a couple of questions for you. A bit of rural rough expert that you are.
Yeah. You like that expression,
I
don't
do.
you?
Yeah.
That's today's newest expression.
Yeah. Here it is from Caroline Morgan. I have a quick question I hope you will be able to answer, Richard. It concerns bees. We have some bees digging holes in our lawn. They look like fluffy honeybees, but are reddy orange. We don't know what they are. My husband thought that they might be mason bees, but we don't know if the nest is in the ground. Can you help us identify them? Thanks, and keep up the good work. Still listening to the podcasts and looking forward to them. Caroline.
There seems to be loads of different species of solitary bees this year. You know, I've noticed at home, I was digging the vegetable patch and I was digging up lots of little fairy bees. You know, they're trying to get in the ground as I was digging, trying to get my seeds in. And I think perhaps it's because it's been a proper winter and everything's woken up when it should do, rather than perhaps waking up prematurely and dying, you know, so that the population suffered. But I wouldn't be able to give an idea really of what the exact species was, because there are something...
Absolutely. I mean, somebody bothers to ask you a question and no answer.
Well, I could say what they might be, but I think it would be sheer folly to do that, because there's something like 247 different species of bee in this country.
But you know, Sherlock,
let's
look at the clues.
I could tell you what they...
Fluffy honeybees.
But fluffy
Wouldn't
honeybees.
that be a bumblebee?
No.
Hole in the ground?
No, I think she's talking about something the size of a honeybee rather than a bumblebee. I think she would probably have realised that they were bumblebees, because bumblebees are 2 or 3 times the size of honeybees, aren't they?
There is one with a red bum, isn't there?
There are several different types of solitary bees with red bums, and there is a bumblebee with a red bum.
Yeah.
It's called a red-tailed bumblebee, strangely enough.
Good Lord.
Yeah. But there are different categories, different groups of bees as well. So you've got your leafcutter bees, your masonry bees, your mason bees, your mining bees, etc., etc.
And your
chances
honeybees.
are, your honeybees, different groups, but chances are it's one of the species of mining bees, of which there are several. And I wouldn't really like to hazard a guess as to what it is without seeing it. But either way, if she can accommodate them in her lawn, then fair play,
Yeah.
you know.
Caroline, this is your task. Go out with your camera and take a picture of that buzzy bee and email richard@wigglyWigglers.co.uk, because he wants to know now
Yeah, I do
what
want to
it
know.
is.
If you email the photograph, I'll find out for you.
And on the subject of photographs, next week, I can't wait, we've got Mr. Harding coming in, who is a customer of Wiggly Wigglers, who takes lots of fantastic bird photos to tell us how to do it.
Right.
Here's the next one. It's from Kate Petham. She says, in the last month, my intrepid 6-year-old, that must be a child, has captured 2...
I think the clues in the expression, definitely.
Yeah, that's a human. my intrepid 6-year-old human has captured 2 harlequin ladybirds. Apparently, these types of ladybirds are destroying our native ladybirds. What I was wondering is, should we be xenophobic about this sort of thing? And when should we applaud it as part of nature's survival of the fittest?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, I can address that first. The whole unfortunate thing about harlequin ladybirds is they've been brought into this country, as many species are brought into many countries, purely on the back of human activities.
Yeah.
And they are an incredible successful species, in much the same way as grey squirrels are, for instance.
Yeah.
And And again, it's a question of sort of damage limitation. I think the harlequin ladybirds are here to stay. The unfortunate thing is they're successful species because they're very versatile. They're voracious feeders on aphids and whatnot, but the trouble is if they eat all the aphids, then they can turn their attentions to other things, so beneficial insects and other ladybirds. They are cannibalistic. I mean, interestingly enough, our seven-spot ladybirds are cannibalistic, and they'll often wait for another ladybird to land, and just before it closes its wings, they'll leap on and, get stuck into it.
Good
So
Lord. More gory than the post-mortem last week.
So they are. It's a very difficult situation. I mean, I think it's probably best not to be xenophobic about most things. To take an overview of it.
I was talking to Mikey P, my friend and yours, the other day. Very keen countryman.
Yeah.
And he said his point was that we've muddled things up so much that now our responsibility is to manage it as best we can.
That's right.
Okay, one more little piece of feedback. Frankie's blue tits. Off you went, didn't you, Roving Richard? I'd really like to hear more about her allotment.
Yeah.
So I know you're going back.
That's why I think we had slight difficulty, didn't we, in the last podcast to fit everything in.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is do an update, go back there, then try and record the chicks chirping and
Excellent.
And try and paint a picture of their big yellow gapes and whatnot. And then they had a gorgeous garden, so it's small but particularly useful for wildlife. So hopefully I'll go back there and we can go back out into the garden, and then they can wax lyrical about all the efforts they're making to accommodate wildlife.
Now, it's a job for you to get through the door because of your head, I know, but I'm going to have to read this little bit of feedback out. Here she goes. Richard was lovely. He convinced me to try some bokashi, which has speeded up my kitchen composting far better than anything else I've tried. I'm a convert. And she says, we now have 10 eggs and the male is feeding the female while she incubates. Mm. And so if you want to go to Frankie's blog, there's a link from wigglyWigglers.blogspot.com, and it's allotment 21, and you can see the update of Frankie's blue tits.
Right.
Last bit of feedback. There was a deadly silence on the post-mortem, so I don't know if we went too far or not, but hopefully you're still there, listeners. Just one little bit of feedback on the post-mortem. It says, keep up the good work. The post-mortem was great radio. My father is a retired vet and I'm going to see him in the week, so I'll make sure he has a listen. Cheers, Jane. So, I don't know what you all thought of it, but Alison said she listened to it when she was in the bath and it was like, oh, as it soared and things.
Yeah.
It's part of life and it's part of the farm. So, what did you think of it, Rich?
I thought it was great. I thought it was brilliant. Really good radio.
Oh, well, we'll see. If you'd like to email us with your views, it would be really great because obviously we don't want to upset your tea. And so here we have the contrast between the Heather week and the Richard week.
Yeah.
The Heather week consists of having her photo taken for the Mail on Sunday, lying down in amongst 4,000 mealworms, with Jodie dribbling on Lumbricus terrestris onto my face, which then went into my mouth, all for the picture for the Mail on Sunday.
Things you do, Things you do to promote the company.
Yeah, and I could feel the little white bit that comes out of the top of the worm's head on my tongue.
That's more information than anybody needs.
Probably. Anyway, it was for a podcast article.
Right.
Because the Mail on Sunday phoned up and said that there was mega opportunities for podcasts and blogs in a small business.
Yeah.
But they weren't taking them up. And that she could understand exactly why this was. And it was because small business was generally part of the community and they could just talk to people.
Right. How wrong could you be?
Yeah. And explained how our community is involved in our podcast and it's fantastic. So we'll see what comes out of that.
Yeah. I'll get
but
that
your
Sunday.
week, Mail on Sunday. But your week, what a contrast to mine. So there I am, lying on the floor in amongst the worms. And where are you?
Well, this week's been ridiculous for me. I've been all over the place. I haven't slept much this week from frantically worrying about episodes through the course of the week that I can expect. But Monday I went down to London. English Nature, we mentioned earlier on, have set up a Gardening for Wildlife forum.
Yeah.
They've invited various organisations, some NGOs, some government organisations, and some from the commercial sector, to be part of this forum, to be able to feed into and get ideas from with regard to how to promote gardening for wildlife, in effect. So anyway, at the beginning of the day, got down there and we thought it'd be a great idea to do some recording for the podcast, interview a few people. So I spoke to Sharon Gunn, who was partly responsible for coordinating the day, whether or not that'd be possible. And she stood up in front of everybody at the beginning of the day and said, Richard Fishman from Wiggly Wigglies has come down. Would anybody have any objections if he recorded a couple of nice little sound bites about what you're doing there, what you're hoping to achieve, etc., etc. Great, I thought. So lunchtime came, opened my bag up, got the little recorder out, switched it on. Oh, no flash disc.
Despite the fact that I put it ready for you with the 2 discs on top of the recording device,
you did,
Ricardo?
You did, and but foolishly on my part, I expected there to be one inside the thing also. I thought, that'll be sufficient. So I remember sweeping the compact flashes to the side of the thing. I thought, no, I don't want any more to take down there. So, of course, that was it, frantic then. So, when you have a blind panic, it's like opening an exam paper and not being able to answer the questions when you're at school.
I still remember it.
Yeah, you feel sick, don't you? You have this. I thought, my God, what a wasted opportunity. So I thought, right, all is not lost. Time to compose myself. Ran down the stairs, ran down, several flights of stairs. It was got a big conference building, and spoke to the guy on reception who was so helpful, top bloke. Said, right, I said, are there any places that sell IT equipment around here? He said, there are a couple of places, Dixon's, and because his sense of urgency wasn't quite the same as mine. I had this small window of opportunity. And I said, oh yeah, that might be worth a crack. He said, what sort of thing do you want? I said, well, it's a little disc, a little disc that goes into a recording device. Said, what sort of recording device? I said, well, like something that you record people talking on.
Yeah, you really are an IT whiz kid,
here we
aren't
go.
you?
So I ran back upstairs, got the thing. He said, that's called a compact flash. I said, oh, is it? Excellent. Well, that's what I need then. He said, right, well, I know where we could get one of those. So off we went, walking quite quickly. I was trying to sort of speed him up, draw him along, even though he was telling me where to go. We went to this market, just off Victoria. There's a guy selling them there, but he couldn't open them, so he couldn't, because obviously he couldn't sell the product after he opened it. So we went shot into Jessop's. The guy behind the counter, big queues, because it's lunchtime, of course, big queues. Guy behind the counter had no idea what he was doing there, really. I mean, he was just sort of functioning, one of those people that just kind of function. And so I said, look, I need something for this. Anyway, he managed to open the packet, and we tried it, and it didn't work. I thought, oh no, this is all going terribly wrong. Last try, another shop just round the corner. Ran in there. The guy said, well, this should work. I can't open it, but it should work. So I thought, right, okay, well, buy it anyway. So I bought the thing. I cut it open
that's
in
a
the
miracle.
shop. Yeah. Well, it's your money, so. So I cut it open and popped it in, pressed the record button, hey presto. We have this feeling of huge relief. So I almost sort of embraced this guy that I just met, my new chum. And we ran back to the conference hall anyway, got back up there. And one of the people I wanted to speak to was a doctor from Essex University who had been doing a study for several years now on the effects of nature and the natural world on human health. So she was really inspiring. She talked very well. So as I ran up the stairwell in this conference hall, she was coming down. She was just leaving. I said, I need to speak to you just before you go. I said, oh, okay. So I managed to have an interview with Rachel, who spoke very eloquently, who we'll listen to.
Well, we would listen to it, but unfortunately there's no time now because the story of you getting the disc means that sadly there's no interview.
That's right.
So thank you, Richard, for today.
But I haven't finished yet.
Oh.
Well, I should explain for the listener more the idea, the way we were able to make a contribution to this Garden for Wildlife Forum. From our perspective, is to say how we can encourage people to garden to wildlife by encourage them to buy certain products, providing support and advice, which of course we do at Wiggly's, to send them in the right direction really, and provide that essential knowledge that they need. So the day was very worthwhile. It'd be interesting for me to see how they progress with things, how English Nature progress with things, but I know we're going to maintain a relationship. But the other people that I interviewed, interestingly enough, the editor from BBC Wildlife magazine, Sophie Stafford, was able to articulate her ambitions and the reason that she was there. A chap who had a great name called Dusty Gedge, who works with living roofs. That was really good. And I spoke to another person who works with Bug Life, a charity set up to preserve and support invertebrate life in the UK, called Kathy Wormold. Hopefully enough.
Oh, love it!
Yeah. So
at the moment we had Rosie Boycott banning roses from Kenya. Kathy Wormold. Well, hopefully we will be able to fit those interviews in, Richard.
Yeah. It makes for interesting listening, I think.
Okay, we're off. Who are you and what are you doing here?
My name is Rachel Hine. I work at the University of Essex with Jules Critty and a multidisciplinary team looking into the health benefits of access to natural places and nature.
Right. I listened to your talk earlier on, Rachel. It was very good, very inspiring. And what were you sort of hoping to achieve by coming here today?
Well, really, just to give some evidence, some real figures, if you like, to prove that something that we all have an inkling about already, that being outside in nature is good for you.
Right.
And so we wanted to illustrate this by looking at our research and sharing the findings, really, just to give people more ammunition, if you like, for their own funding bids. If all the organisations here today are looking for other reasons to justify their existence and to take their work further, and if we can help them with that, that's great.
There's definitely mileage in it, isn't there? And I mean, if you can encourage people to use the countryside for best effect for their own personal selves, then and it's obviously going to rub off on all the other organisations who are here today. What does your work entail generally? I mean, you're going to go back now, and what are you going to find yourself doing when you go back to Essex University?
Oh goodness, we've got all sorts of things going on at the moment. From the thing that I'm most interested in at the moment, or one of the things, is setting up of a UK-wide care farming initiative where people can go and work on farms for the benefit of their own health, for the benefit of the countryside. It's really linking people back to the countryside, reconnecting people back to nature. And care farming is an exciting new way of doing that, good for farmers as well, good for the countryside. Well, we're doing all sorts of different work at Essex, ranging from the comparison of how effective traditional treatment for mild to moderate depression is compared to, say, a healthy walk, a bit of green exercise. But all sorts of things, really. We're also looking at
it's kind of wholesome stuff, really, isn't it?
All sorts of different things, yes. I could go on for hours about all the different things that we're doing, and other links with other organisations that are doing some fantastic work. Sure. And a lot of people are going in the same direction. Right. It's green exercise is becoming a buzzword that government departments are looking into as well, which is great, and putting some money behind. And just getting people out there. Nature is good for you.
It is, absolutely. And on that note, thanks very much, Rachel. And you've got some fantastic sandy dreads, by the way.
Thank you.
Cheers, thanks. Sophie, can you explain a little bit about yourself and why you're here today and what you're hoping to achieve by being here today?
Okay, my name is Sophie Stafford and I've been editor of BBC Wildlife magazine for the past 2 years.
Right.
BBC Wildlife is really concerned that with the urban environment encroaching on the countryside, many of our most favourite mammals, birds and insects having their homes taken away from them. So the garden environment is really becoming one of the most essential places for the future of wildlife.
Yeah, excellent. And so you're obviously representing your magazine by being here today. What are you hoping that the forum will achieve?
Well, really, there are some really excellent people here who are very involved in conserving our wildlife, and hopefully by getting together here today, we can identify ways in which we can together educate the public to achieve common goals. It basically comes down to saving species, preserving habitats, and with this garden habitat being really, really important, it's a way of telling people, identifying ways we can tell people just how important their gardens are and just what they can do to improve them.
Okay, fantastic. And the other thing I wanted to ask you is you were talking earlier on, we were sat down together doing a workshop, and you mentioned earlier on about some of the articles that you like to write and the contributions that you like people to make. Could you sort of give people an idea if they're looking to contribute something to BBC Wildlife magazine? What kind of thing would you like to get from people? What sort of contributions would you like?
Well, we're really keen to hear from people who've got a huge passion for species and basically have maybe been monitoring the animals in their garden really closely. Maybe they have really special stories. Also, anybody who has questions. We have a whole panel of experts. So people quite often write to us and say, I found this, I spotted that, what is it? So we're often trying to teach people about what they're seeing, what they're finding, what they're experiencing in their local environment. Letters, if people feel passionately. We had a lady write to us recently about a dormouse hedge that she was concerned was being pulled up, right. and we basically put that in the magazine. So it's all about raising awareness of issues that matter to everyday people and actually giving them to us to see if we can help with them.
Excellent. Cheers, Sophie. Thank you very much. Hiya. You've got an interesting name, haven't you?
Dusty Gedge, I suppose it is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a fantastic name. What are you? Why are you here today?
I'm here because I'm speaking about green roofs in terms of how they can fit into gardens and wildlife. So I'm here to promote to people the opportunities, especially in urban areas, of creating wildlife-friendly habitat on roof spaces.
Right.
Personal roofs which nobody goes on.
Yeah, you showed us some great slides earlier on. I mean, it's interesting once you say that you've got some, isolated roofs where no one goes out on, but a lot of those roofs, of course, are overlooked, aren't they?
Yeah.
But some, like you say, provide a discreet but necessary habitat for inverts and birds, animals alike. You mentioned a roof space that's been geared for red starts.
Yeah, well, that's how it all started. I mean, there's over 300,000 square metres of green roofs going up for black red starts, and they're not necessarily going to be green, they're going to be flowerage. And this word green does cause me a problem because most things in the summer are never very green. Right. It's interesting, actually, from a public point of view, is I get about 100 emails a week of people saying I want a green roof which is wildlife friendly. Right. And there's not much information out there about how to do it, and it's best. We just written a leaflet for English Nature, and we're going to have, hopefully by the end of the summer, have quite detailed stuff on the website about how people do it themselves. There's a lot of myths about it. It's actually very, very simple.
So do you feel that people are more conscious over their roofs now? Do you think there's
a growing interest because of partly wildlife, but also climate change? People want to be doing something which is good.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And
they are beautiful as well, aren't they? I mean, that's the thing. It's beautiful. It's fun.
Yeah, beauty is fun. I mean, what I say to people who do their own is, look, don't get hung up about all the commercial products. Do it yourself. And if at the end of the day it doesn't look very, very good, or you're not happy with that bit, rake it over and put some seeds on it. Have some fun with it. But don't over garden it, because these things should be self-sustaining. And if you, just throw some seeds on it, see what happens. Because it never, because depending on the type, they will never get too unruly.
Are they relatively easy to create, a roof garden?
Well, they are, but it's a building, so you have to check your structure and your waterproofing, and then decide. But it's worth getting some advice from it. And there is, Living Roofs provides some free advice because that's what it's set up to do. And there's a point where we can't,
Yeah, sure.
But I say to people is don't get hung up about what they look like,
right?
Because they will look all right.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah. Like all good things,
Not even eventually. Some of the commercial products, which look very nice in brochures, aren't necessarily going to have the legs.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Excellent. Well, cheers, Dusty. Thanks for that, and hopefully I'll speak to you. We're on. So can I ask you who you are and why you've come today?
I'm Kathy Wormold. I'm Development Manager for the Invertebrate Conservation Trust. And the main reason why we're here today is because gardens have become a wildlife haven for invertebrates. Right. For example, if we look at bumblebees, it is now suspected that there are more bumblebees in domestic gardens than there are in the wider countryside. Right. So we want to promote wildlife gardens.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I know what you mean. So really, what are you sort of hoping to achieve by coming along to English Nature's Gardening for Wildlife Forum?
Well, firstly, it gives us an opportunity to network with other people doing the same thing as us, because we're all doing this, but we need to sort of get together, coordinate our efforts and make sure that we're reaching as wide an audience as possible. Yeah. There's also companies that come along to the gardening forum, so it also gives us an opportunity to work with companies to discuss with them how they can promote wildlife gardening. Yeah. So overall, it's a good way for us to network, but then also to make sure that we all getting the message out there, very clear and concise message to gardeners.
Right, excellent. I know we've spoken before, but I'm just wondering, what sort of projects is your charity working on at the moment? You've got quite a range of work ongoing, haven't you?
We've got an enormous amount of range of work ongoing. We're doing a Essex Bumblebee survey, where we're asking residents of Essex to let us know about certain bumblebees that they spot. That will be launched later, probably next year. Right. We're working with Dusty Gedge of Living Roofs, and we're going to be building a brown roof at Tilbury Power Station.
Oh, wow.
And we've got our Soft Rock Cliffs project, which is looking at the invertebrate biodiversity of Soft Rock Cliffs. It's a very under-researched area, Soft Rock Cliffs.
Right.
And we've got our Scarlet Malachite Beetle survey, which is asking residents to let us know of sightings of this very rare little back priority listed species. It's only found in a few areas of England. It comes out for 3 weeks of the year, suddenly is there, then disappears, and we know very little about it. So the project will be raising public awareness, but also on the back of that project we can do some serious ecology research on the beetle.
Excellent, fantastic. So all sorts of really exciting stuff. And
a lot of stuff.
Your organisation is very much sort of up and coming, isn't it? You know, it's going great guns.
Yeah, we were only actually launched in April 2004, and since then we've just really taken off. Public interest is enormous. Funders are keen for us to be successful.
Right.
So we're really, really busy.
What's the best way for people to contact your organisation?
Well, the best thing is to go onto our website at www.buglife.org.uk.
Okay.
And the best way you can help us is to become a friend of Bug Life. Right. Join us, and you can help us conserve these little things that run the world.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks very much, Kathy. Cheers.
Thank you.
Oh, you do go on quick, Rich. Introduce Monty.
Hi, Monty. How are you?
The Wiggly Wormcast podcast by Monty. A weekly fact on worms. Worms have crops like pigeons. After they have swallowed, the food goes into the crop, which is a sort of food storage department. From there, the food goes off to the gizzard.
Thank you, Monty. Just before we go, the Wiggly courses are going really well. Well, we thought they were. We enjoyed them, didn't we, Rich?
We did, yeah.
Did anyone else enjoy them?
I think so. Well, we've had 2 so far this year, haven't we? We've had Jenny Steele's, where Jenny looks at natural gardening.
Yep, I wasn't here that day.
No, you
I
weren't.
was at my brother-in-law's wedding. Congratulations, Bissy and Jean.
And then we had a worms course on Wednesday, which Rian and I spoke about earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
And that equally went very well. That was our first official advertised course, wasn't it?
Okay.
So, and we've got a series of courses throughout the year. We've got courses at the dates of which you know, I think.
Oh, he drops me in it. They're on the website, listener. But the next Jenny Steele course, which is a full day, is on the 22nd of June. And we've got various courses coming up. Family Day, I think, is nearly booked. So if you want to squeeze onto that one, do it quick. Anyway, tell me what they say.
Well, a mixed response, but tending to be along the same lines. It seems that everyone had a fantastic day.
I'll have to take them off him because he's too modest then. Overall comments, very interesting, fun day, enjoyable, informative, excellent, fantastic day, much better than others I have been on. They like the weather. Well, we'll fix that for next time, no problem.
You know what, I was sat out there, we were talking about the effects of chemicals. Phil was waxing lyrical about, you know, the way he farms. And there was a cuckoo in my left ear, and there was a skylark in my right. And I thought, you know, what a perfect setting. How could it be better?
And what birds did Jenny steal we must put on our bird list?
Jenny saw a pair of blackcaps. There are about a pair of blackcaps in the garden, but Jenny was a pair of blackcaps on Saturday.
Fantastic. Anyway, thanks to Jenny for that. And on the subject of Jenny, the book has gone to print today. And I've got the first tiny review. I'm not going to give you the punchline, but Elspeth Thompson from the Daily Telegraph really liked it. Appreciated the Wiggly design, not just a gimmick. Surprisingly easy to read. It made me feel that I wanted to up sticks and come and work with you all. I always rated the company, but now I feel I know much more about you all. Blah, blah, blah. So looking good.
Excellent. Yep.
That'll be out middle of May. Bye for now.
Bye.
Joined today by my co-host
Richard.
A bit of rural rough.
A bit of rural rough. Yeah. How do you want me to respond to that? You pick these things up and you throw them into the equation. Michael holds his hands up in the air. We all roll around laughing. And again, the whole strategy for trying to do it as quickly and smoothly as possible is completely scuppered.